Okay, so how did I discover my purpose in life? By luck. True story. Okay, so you may be wondering right now, if I discovered my purpose by luck, how can I now teach you how to discover your purpose? Because the reality is, the good news is this: the purpose that I discovered by luck led me into this field to find out more about emotions and purpose so that I can then share with everyone. And I'll elaborate a little bit more. Okay, so a big part of my career. Okay, before that, we'll rewind, kind of like a flashback. Okay, my formal education is in engineering. Okay, I have a diploma in mechanical engineering. I have a degree in engineering management. Formerly Malaysian, came to Singapore at the age of 21 in look for greener grass. Okay, so I came here, got a job in the engineering field, worked in the engineering field for only a year and a half. Right? This was way back in 2001. So y'all can start doing the numbers right now, okay, to start figuring out, how old I am, because I can already see all the numbers computing. But only worked for about a year and a half. 2001, there was an economic recession, right? A lot of companies, especially in the engineering field, were shutting down. They were moving out of Singapore. Okay, so my plant was one of it. It was a mass closure, mass retrenchment. Okay, so for about 8 months, I was jobless, looking for something that's going to help me pay my bills. All right. 8 months later, saw a walk-in interview for a flight attendant with Singapore Airlines. Went for the walk-in interview, made it all the way to the final stage, didn't get in. All right. Feeling very dejected, stayed home.
Do you know the reason why?
Oh, they don't tell. They honestly don't. Okay, but yeah, I don't know, I felt dejected. Couple of weeks later, I saw again walk-in interview for Singapore Airlines. I'm like, you know what, I'm going again. Something has to pay the bills, and there wasn't much opportunities out there. I went again. This time, I made it. So for the next 7.5 years, I was a flight attendant with Singapore Airlines. All right. So this was all the way to the age of 30. Till today, I always say one of the best jobs to do, right? Because it's one of those very few jobs, I think, where work ends when work ends. I step out of the aircraft, that's it. There's no overtime. I don't take anything back with me to the hotel or Singapore. Work only starts again when I get into the aircraft, right? So one of the best jobs to be in, especially when you're young. You see the world, you stay in the best hotels, you eat the best food. At about 30 years old, I started having this calling for something more. Right? I felt like my time in Singapore Airlines had run its course. Right? It wasn't anything bad, right? But it just felt like I wanted something more. What I was having in Singapore Airlines was no longer enough, because it's quite monotonous. Right? So this was my first lesson in life. If you want something more, I think it's all well and good, but try to figure out what more means before you take that leap of faith. All right? Things can work out. All right? It worked out for me. But when you don't know what you want, it may take a lot longer for things to work out. All right? That's the only difference. So I left Singapore Airlines at the age of 30. Didn't know what I want to do in life. All right? In that pursuit of trying to discover what I want to do in life was when things started taking a down. It started going downhill, for that matter. All right? Because in my mind, when I left Singapore Airlines, I thought, I'm qualified. I've got qualifications. All right? How hard can it be to get back into the engineering field? The reality was, it was really hard because I've been away for almost 8 years. All right? And in the 2000s to 2010, 8 years is a long time for technology. All right? Technology moves so fast. It still is moving so fast. 8 years means I'm completely outdated. Right? So no one wanted to hire me. All right? Hospitality, a lot of people wanted to hire me. Problem was, they didn't want to pay me what I wanted because I had no formal education in hospitality. And the other thing was, I didn't want to go back to hospitality, not yet. I just spent the 8 years of my life, in hospitality. So I wanted a change. All right? So 1 over year into trying to find my calling, I discovered that I had no clue of what I wanted to do at the age of 31. Okay, financially, going down, 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 all right? And to make things worse, I was in a relationship, and all of this took a strain in the relationship, and before I knew it, I was also going through a divorce. So at the age of 31, it felt like life had gone one full circle. I am now exactly like that 21-year-old boy who came to Singapore with absolutely nothing but hopes and dreams. Only difference, at 31, I didn't even have hopes and dreams. Okay, so it was tough, all right? So, felt like a victim for that entire year and a half. The day things changed for me was the day that I stopped asking myself, why me? All right, ever asked that question before, why me? Why is this happening to me? All right, so here's a little secret as well. Why me never answers any questions. Why me only takes you back to that negative experience, and the more time you spend in that negative experience, the more intense the negative emotions that you're feeling become. All right, so the question changed in my mind. I can't remember what spurred that change of question. All right, sometimes it could just be that you've had enough, all right, and you just want things to be better. So I remember the day life changed for me was the day that why me became what must I do next. The day I asked that question, all right, I no longer want to feel this way. I no longer want to be in this situation. What must I do next? Because I'm done feeling sorry for myself. That was the day change. Because that's when I realized that, you know what, if I want to be in control of life again, I've got to go out and learn how to be in control of life again. I've got to learn how to manage my emotions. I've got to learn how to set the way towards the things that I want to achieve. I've got to discover my purpose. So someone told me back then, all right, to attend, ever heard of this guy, Tony Robbins?
Sure.
Yeah? So someone told me back then, said that, you know what, go and attend this seminar by Tony Robbins. It's called Unleash the Power Within. It's an amazing seminar, all right? So I went and Googled, right, like what most people would do. Read all the testimonials, saw all the videos, right? And I loved what he was doing. And I knew that this seminar could change my life. But here comes the problem. That seminar, the closest place that they were running it was in Sydney, okay? It cost almost $1,000 to buy the tickets, and that's excluding airfare, accommodation, and food, and I could not afford that at all. I could not, all right? So what was the question in my mind? Why me? I really need it, you know, but I can't afford it. Why me? But then I quickly switched it again. You know what? I'm done feeling sorry for myself. What must I do next? So the moment I asked what must I do next, that's when the answer came to me that, you know what, if I can't go to Tony Robbins, I'm going to bring Tony Robbins to me. All right, how? I'm going to go into a bookstore and buy his book. All right, because while I can't afford $1,000 to go to Sydney, I can afford $20 to buy a book. All right, and that's when I started making it a habit to read self-development books. So I bought some books, started reading, started applying, okay, and then life started changing, and then I started attending seminars, and then realized that, hey, there's a lot of power in self-help, all right? And self-help is so readily available to everyone. You go to YouTube, all right, there's a whole lot of stuff there. You go to the bookstore, a whole lot of stuff there. All right, you listen to podcasts these days, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you go, there's just so much of great content, but the sad part is not a lot of people use it. Okay, so I realized that, hey, you know what, this content changed my life. Now that my life feels like it's got purpose again, all right, that I'm back on track, I want to make it my purpose to share everything that I have learned and still am learning. The reality is I still have bad days all the time. I still get hit by challenges all the time. I still feel down every now and again. But I think the difference is I refuse to stay down, and every time I'm hit with a form of challenge, I want to find a way to pick myself up. And the moment I find a way to pick myself up, my next order of business becomes, how can I share this to everyone out here so that whoever that's been or is going through what I've gone through, they now have some answers. Do my answers work for everyone? Absolutely not, because each and every one of us go through different things in life, right? We're different people, right? So my goal is not to change the world. Once upon a time it was. These days, no, it's to just help the people who needs help through the content that I put out. And if you resonate with my content, if you find that this content helps you, all well and good. But if you find that it's not applicable, then my answer would be that's also okay. That means you got to keep looking, all right? Because I'm not a one-size-fits-all. So that's how I discovered my purpose. And ever since 2014 till now, that's been my purpose. Everything that I do, even till today, is to put content out to the world that is freely available. Okay, I no longer do public workshops. I no longer charge tickets for it. Even when I speak at corporate events, depending what the event is, I do it like this, right? You may have noticed there's 2 cameras here today, right? The reason for this 2 camera, and this 2 camera is both focused just on me, not because I love seeing myself, right? I do, right? But that's not the whole reason. The reason is, this talk now will be cut into snippets. The snippets will go onto YouTube, it'll go onto TikTok, it'll go onto Instagram, it goes onto LinkedIn. And again, it's not out there for me to get business, all right? It's not for me to say, hey, I had a great time speaking at ISCA today. If anybody out there needs a speaker, you can hire me. No, absolutely not. It's just content that's floating out there for whoever that may need it. Right? Content that is freely available. Okay, I'm not saying charging is wrong, but for me, because of what I have gone through, I've made it my purpose to make content freely available. All right, so that's how I discovered my purpose, by luck. Okay, but to teach you how to discover your purpose, all I can tell you is this. All right, my advice is this: don't leave your purpose to luck. All right, because you don't know when, right, it may come. You also don't know how much you must endure before you decide to look for your purpose, right? My advice is start asking yourself questions. There is coaching and there's self-coaching. Do you know that the fundamental tool for coaching is questions? Everything about coaching is questions. You sit down with a coach is going to ask you questions after questions after questions. If you're going to do self-coaching, you've got to ask yourself questions as well. All learning begins with self-awareness. And self-awareness is formed by self-reflection. You have to reflect. You have to take that time to sit with yourself to ask yourself hard questions. Right? You have to ask yourself hard questions, and you've got to discover these answers for yourself. So my question to you would be just that. What is your purpose? Is what you're doing right now your purpose? And how would you know if that's your purpose or not? Ask yourself the second question. Can you see yourself doing this for the rest of your life? And it's a binary question. It's yes or no, right? And it's quite fast. Can I see myself doing this for the rest of my life? Absolutely. 5 years ago, I could not. 5 years ago, I was happy because I was doing a lot of corporate workshops, 2-day workshops, 3-day workshops on my feet, day to night. Right? Even at that point of time, I knew that was not my purpose. Right? It paid the bills, right? But I could not see myself doing it for the rest of my life, so I stopped doing it. Today, can I see myself doing this for the rest of my life? Absolutely. All right? So you've got to ask yourself questions like this. All right? And purpose goes beyond just asking one why. You've got to ask yourself multiple whys. All right? There's a great book out there. If you've not heard of it, if you've not read it, I would highly encourage you to pick it up. All right? It's this book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. All right? It's a great book. Okay? Simply because it's not a concept that's new. All right? In the self-help realm, finding your purpose and asking yourself why has been around for hundreds of years. All right? But Simon Sinek has a way of putting forth this concept in a manner that is easy to understand. He's got a logical flow to how he's presenting this information. So I would highly recommend pick up a book, all right? And start with why, because I think it's a great book to start with, all right? And that's how you discover your purpose. Right? Did I answer that question? I know it's a long answer for a very short question.